Inbound season is upon us, everybody, so get ready because Inbound 2025 will bring together, once again, the brightest minds in marketing, sales, and AI to explore what's now and what's next. The event is taking place September 3rd to 5th at the Moscone Center in San Francisco, and this three-day experience features inspiring keynotes, tactical breakout sessions, exclusive product reveals, and immersive workshops. You can network with industry leaders and gain actionable insights to implement immediately for your company. The speakers we got on the docket are great this year. We got Amy Poehler, Marquez Brownlee, Sean Evans, Glennon Doyle, and many others. You're not going to want to miss it. You can go to inbound.com/register to secure your spot at Inbound 2025. Good morning, everybody. Today's Monday, June 23rd. I'm Jon Weigell here with the founder of Circle, Sid Yadav, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. It seems every creator now offers a course or community to their audience. The online community teaching industry has exploded with content creators occupying a massive chunk of the share. One company, though, that heavily capitalized on this is Circle, which helps people build those valuable communities. But how does Circle make money? And how did co-founder Sid Yadav make it all happen? Well, he's here to tell us exactly how. We'll get to that in a little bit, but first, let's give you the news in business and tech. Starting us off today, Volkswagen believes the autonomous ride-hailing market could grow to 450 billion euros in size by 2035, and Volkswagen is hoping to be part of that amount. The company partnered with Intel subsidiary Mobileye to create autonomous microbus vehicles that it hopes can compete with giants like Waymo and Tesla. The first ones are en route to Uber next year. That's pretty soon. Next up, a report from the Swiss bank UBS estimates that the U.S. added 379,000 new millionaires in 2024, which is a 1.5% increase year over year. That would also be more than 1,000 per day. I mean, if that rate holds, it's only a matter of time before I'm there too, right? Please? Next, in some tech news, we've all thought about the demise of the fax machine. At least I have for many, many years of not being able to use one. But the founders of health startup Tenor took those thoughts further, starting a $605 million company that automates the outdated fax-heavy doctor office referral system. They just added $101 million in funding, and honestly, I didn't even know doctors still used faxing. A great idea to capitalize on that, because once again, I have no idea how to do it, and I think it's really hard. And finally here, even saffron isn't really safe from artificial intelligence. Swedish startup Blue Red Gold scored a $3.15 million funding round to bring the world's first indoor AI-enabled robotic saffron cultivation system, which are words we are confident that you have never heard together in your entire life, nor have said until today, probably. Okay, look, side hustles fail when they consume all of your time. I mean, every single bit of it. The pros, though, work smarter with AI doing all the heavy lifting. To help you out, we just dropped the Side Hustle Accelerator database. You can search your exact problem for your side hustle, grab the perfect prompt, and get results. If you're struggling with marketing, content, and customer service, it's all solved in just seconds. This isn't just another tool, guys. It's your unfair advantage in a spreadsheet. So stop asking AI the wrong questions and start scaling with what actually works. You can get it for free in the link in our show notes. And you can stop right now, actually. Why don't you take a look down at those show notes and tap the link. You don't want to sleep on this. Okay, on to our main story today, and we are joined by Sid Yadav to talk about launching his company, Circle, and how you could do a similar thing in 2025. Let's get into it. Okay, welcome, Sid. How are you doing today?
Hey, John. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. So, of course, you founded Circle. Can you first tell me just a bit about the ideation process for the company coming up with that idea?
Yeah, just to go a little bit back, I'm a two-time immigrant, born in India, grew up in New Zealand, moved to the US with the dream of starting a company. I was at a company called Teachable for 5 years, where I was a founding designer, eventually was the head of product. And Teachable was this kind of online course platform that empowered entrepreneurs. And, after that experience, something I realized about myself was that I was actually very passionate about building software for entrepreneurs. I find it to be a very exciting niche. So long story short, grouped with two of my co-founders who are also ex-Teachable. And we started exploring ideas in this kind of wider ecosystem. So we had these like basic checklist of an idea that kind of excited us would be ideally a SaaS business model would sell to entrepreneurs. Would bring people together. And ideally, it'd be an idea that we could work on for like 10 to 20 years and it would have incredible impact. And the way we did this, by the way, is we do this like essentially 12-hour Zoom call for 2 days a week.
Wow, 12-hour Zoom. Did I hear that right? 12-hour Zoom call?
Yes.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah. We were freelancing for the other 3 days. That's how we paid for our meals and stuff. Yeah. But we just hop on these crazy Zoom calls and essentially try and deconstruct entire industries, ecosystems, spaces, talk about all sorts of ideas.
Wow.
We would get super excited about an idea on one day and then wake up not feeling very excited and we just kind of move on to the next one. But we did have this basic checklist, right? And we kind of just honestly accidentally landed into the opportunity with communities, which is realizing this very macro trend of people want to be together and content online is something we've noticed seems to be losing value or getting commoditized. We kind of saw this in the online courses space with platforms like Udemy, which are kind of underselling courses. And then there's a shift to kind of cohort-based courses. And we were seeing that transition happen essentially for all creators, all brands, all businesses. And the idea kind of came to us to build the Shopify-like platform for this ecosystem, kind of all-in-one community platform that brings together discussions, events, live streams, and courses. And so we kind of set out to build that.
Cool. And after you had that idea, I'm sure it was a bit of a breakthrough moment when you decided what exactly you were doing and what you were pursuing. What are the first steps you take after that with your co-founders? What did you guys do next, essentially, after finally understanding what it was you set out to do?
I remember where we committed to this idea, which we were doing this vacation in Portugal. And so we'd sit out on the balcony.
Better than a Zoom call, maybe.
Yes. Eventually, we upgraded to the balcony and went IRL. But, there's a moment where we just felt like, okay, community is one idea that we're not going to talk about it anymore. We're actually just going to do it. And we're going to learn from the feedback and learn from what the world tells us about the idea versus our perception of the idea, which, we were excited about, but we didn't want the excitement to faint. So essentially, two of us are product designers. So first thing we did was started designing our dream platform in Figma and had this kind of internal design process of looking at all the other competitors, semi-competitors, thinking about the paradigm itself. So, for example, we looked at Facebook groups and realized that it's fairly one-dimensional. There's just one conversation you could have with the entire community, at least at the time, and that was fairly limiting. So we came up with this idea for spaces in Circle where, similar to Slack channels, you can have spaces for posts, chat, events, courses, and so on. And we went to our friends. Some of them happened to be ex-Teachable customers, so we're kind of in the market for this. My co-founder, Rudy, was consulting with about 30 course creators. So he's their fractional CTO. That gave us a unfair advantage. And what we noticed was this crazy amount of reception, which we'd never felt with any other idea we'd pitched to folks, where people would hop on these Zoom calls, they'd see it and they'd just be like, oh, when can I use this? Or when are you launching this? And so over time, this Figma board, I'd say like over the course of like 2 to 3 weeks, turned into an actual prototype. We at one point booked this hackathon in Venice Beach for a week, kind of locked ourselves in, did the classic, Red Bull.
Hell yeah. All-nighters.
Yeah, all-nighters. And at the end of that process, we had a prototype, which we were able to show to the folks who happened to be our first investors. So my former boss at Teachable, Encore, wired us a $250K check.
Cool.
And that was a very strong signal because he basically told us at that point to stop other ideas, stop the freelancing, kind of go all in. And that gave us a lot of encouragement. And actually at the same time, we were able to get 5 of those, you could say, prospects at the time to actually commit to using the product once it existed.
And what would you say was kind of your biggest learning in the first year of getting Circle off the ground? Or it sounds like, even the first few months of getting it off the ground. What's something that really impacted you during that time?
There's a sense of like very natural momentum where we were not zooming out very much. We were not introspecting very much. There was just so much to do every single day, every hour that we were purely heads down. And I was just telling this to a founder last week, super smart guy. And he was trying to like describe to me his best version of the idea and kind of iterate on the idea in his head. And the advice I gave to him is like, hey, after a certain point, you just have to get very heads down. You have to have your, let's say, 3 to 5 initial customers, the initial cohort of folks. And all that should matter to you at that point is just getting those folks to use your product, give you feedback, and feel, super happy about your product. Or if not, if they're dissatisfied, you should be learning from that. But you kind of have to hone in and make your world fairly myopic, I think, to move forward. And, when I look back, I think that's something we did well, which is we just had constant day-to-day momentum. And that opened up opportunities every day. We weren't very abstract or intellectual about the idea. We were extremely pragmatic and extremely concrete as we built it.
That's awesome. I would also like to know, after you've built it and after you've received the investments and after you received some funds, can you talk to me about how Circle right now generates income and makes money?
Yeah. So, this is one of the things we picked early on. HubSpot was actually a big inspiration. Dharmesh is thankfully an investor and a customer as well. We love the SaaS business model. So we were looking at companies like HubSpot, like Shopify. Teachable was similar. And what made us feel great about this business model is customers use your product, and ideally your product gives them a ton of value and it enables them to build these large businesses. And at that point, you can just charge them for it. So if you're not, hitting the can down the road, you're actually able to have a sustaining business model. So essentially our customers pay anywhere from $89 a month up to $5,000 a month for Circle. And that ranges on kind of the features they're using, scale, etc. It's a fairly typical SaaS business model, mostly product-led, mostly inbound. And we do have a payments component as well, which is we keep anywhere from 0.5 to 2% of your GMV fees for any payments you process through Circle.
Gotcha. So now Circle's been around for a little while and you have all these kinds of ideas that came to life. I think now when you get a business that is doing well and you get a business that is kind of what you envisioned it would be, how do you stay up to date and level up continuously? I'm sure there are other platforms that offer a similar service in some way. So how do you kind of stay relevant? How do you compete?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for us, we have a fairly kind of focused view on all of this stuff. So we're extremely heads down, and there's basically one thing that matters in the company, which is our product velocity. So whether it's someone in sales or customer success or support, it's fairly obvious to everyone that what matters is to make the product better. And so obviously if you're in engineering or design at Circle, that means quality and outcomes, and there's always feedback flowing in. And if you're not in one of our engineer design teams, it means kind of being that conduit to the customer and passing along the feedback and really making sure that their voice is being heard internally. So we don't think a lot about competition, frankly. Now, obviously our sales folks get asked about it all the time, and we have answers and playbooks and things that we like to talk about or emphasize, but we're not a very competition focused company. So I have a very non-zero sum view of the world and our market and our ecosystem. So I tend to think that, hey, if they're doing well and we're also doing super well, we're all going to win. Now, at the same time, we make our best effort to make Circle stand out just with the quality of the product, the speed of our improvements, and by giving them exceptional customer service.
No, it's a good perspective to have, because just because somebody else is doing another similar idea doesn't mean that there's less market space. It probably means that there's even more demand for that sort of thing. So that's a good mindset to have.
And one thing I like to point out is, it's now been 5 years. So we've seen so many competitors emerge and then die out.
Yeah.
So all these competitors we used to worry about in year one, most of them are no longer in business. So that's been an interesting observation. And actually my one takeaway from it has been I'm so glad we didn't obsess about those guys or try and copy them in any way, because they kind of just naturally, fell out. And I just think about all the time that we saved not thinking about them.
Totally. And last thing I wanted to talk to you about, Sid, is that, people have all these kinds of ideas and they want to start companies. You've successfully done this. What valuable things can you do before actually trying to start your first business that would prepare you for what's to come?
That's a great question. Yeah, I have a fairly interesting backstory here, which is, I've been a tech writer, I've been a designer, I've been an engineer at some point in my life. As a very young kind of teenage nerdy blogger who'd write about startups and venture rounds and stuff for Mashable and VentureBeat. I have a computer science degree, so I've been a coder, front end, back end. I just take on whatever opportunities kind of came my way. And I've been a designer too. So I was Teachable's founding designer, built out the design team there. So what's worked for me personally is just kind of accumulating skills and experiences. When I was, let's say, 21, 22, I always knew I wanted to start a company. I was not in any rush to start a company. And the way I looked at most of my 20s is it was just kind of getting in the reps and building up my craft in design, in engineering, in coding. And a lot of that has really helped me, right? So when I work today with pretty much anyone in the company, I can tell them, hey, I've done a version of your job before. And I really do understand kind of the crux of what it takes to be a good engineer, designer, customer support person, marketer, salesperson. And what I would say is, a lot of people kind of rush into wanting to start a company at a very young age. Now, if you truly feel in your bones that you're ready for that, that's amazing. But I don't think it's a prerequisite or a necessity in any way. Like, I think you could totally have a vision in mind for maybe your mid to late 20s or even your 30s and just kind of work at gaining those experiences. You don't want to fail on your own dime, right?
It's true.
You want someone else to be kind of funding your failures and your reputation. And hey, it's their reputation at the time, right? So when you finally take that risk, you want to be in the best situation possible.
No, it's great advice. I like the you don't want to fail on your own dime. That's a lot of trial and error that you get to experience maybe before you strike out on your own. So I think that's a great method for understanding the industry, working in the industry, figuring out what people's pain points are in a workplace for when you have to hire them. So awesome stuff today, Sid. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to me about all this, and good luck with whatever's to come next.
Thanks, John. No, this is a great chat, and thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you. Okay, that's going to do it for us today, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of HubSpot Media. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a ton more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go sign up at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at thehustledaily. We'll catch you later. Okay, look. Side hustles fail when they consume all of your time. I mean, every single bit of it. The pros, though, work smarter with AI doing all the heavy lifting. To help you out, we just dropped the Side Hustle Accelerator database. You can search your exact problem for your side hustle, grab the perfect prompt, and get results. If you're struggling with marketing, content, and customer service, it's all solved in just seconds. This isn't just another tool, guys. It's your unfair advantage in a spreadsheet. So stop asking AI the wrong questions and start scaling with what actually works. You can get it for free in the link in our show notes. And you can stop right now, actually. Why don't you take a look down at those show notes and tap the link? You don't want to sleep on this.